Good evening, everyone. Doing a video here, knowing full well that the audio may not be ideal. Well, it certainly is not ideal. There's just a massive storm that rolled through here where I am. And as a result, there's some lingering rain coming down the gutters and such, and dripping and so forth. So who knows? Maybe it'll be a serenading experience for whoever may watch this video, or it could be something different. You could experience it differently than that. But needless to say, I'm out here smoking my cigar in a screened-in porch. One of the great innovations in the history of mankind is a screened-in porch. And I'm definitely sensitive when it comes to sounds and things like that. I often wear my noise-canceling over-ear headphones in situations where people would not normally do that, such as when I'm driving the car. I don't know what it is about that or what it is about me, but I like doing that, and I don't even necessarily have the audio on. I might be doing it literally just to cancel the noise. So the reason I bring that up is that recording this video will likely be a true test of my ability to focus while these noises are going on around me. Might be a test of my ability to focus, and also my ability to tune out noises, which I'm otherwise not very skillful at. It might be a test for you as well, though, if there's anything that I'm saying that's worthwhile along the way or at all interesting. Did anyone catch that game the other night? Did you catch the Spurs game? Can I call it the Spurs game? It's the Knicks game. After all, they won. A lot of times on YouTube, this is the one thing I love about being able to pause and rewind TV, is if I'm running late doing whatever, I'll turn on the game, not look at the score, and then rewind it all the way to the beginning. And that is almost a better experience than if I had watched it live from the beginning, because I end up, fast forwarding through all the commercials, fast forwarding through halftime. I didn't start that game until 10:30 last night, and I think the game had started. I started at like 10:15, and I think the game had started at like 8:30, and I was able to catch up to real time an hour and 15 minutes later, catching up to real time. And as I was fast forwarding, it was a decent game in the beginning, but the Spurs were up most of the time, and then the Spurs kind of took off and ended up being up as many as 29 points. And at one point I just stopped, I started fast forwarding just to see if the game would get closer. And I think it ended up getting to like 21 or 22 points. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to watch from here. And needless to say, it kept going and going and going. And it kept getting closer and closer and closer. And number 8, OG, I didn't know who he was until last series. And I've been telling my buddies, I've just been calling him number 8, which is only one digit less than his name of OG. So I probably could have just went with OG. But needless to say, incredible game, incredible to watch. A true testament to, when you're down, don't give up. Keep coming, keep coming, keep coming. It literally had, everyone was on their feet, but in the audience was also both Jerry Seinfeld and Larry David, who are both notoriously, probably not the most lively people at a game, or the most, enthusiastic. And maybe I'm speaking out of turn for Larry David, because he certainly can be maybe erratic, so maybe he does get a little hyped, but I can't say I've ever seen Larry David and Jerry Seinfeld both 100% fully present and on their feet and just like completely engaged and in awe and in, you know, just wowed by the entire experience, as everybody in the stadium was, and everybody who was tuning in was. The only downside was Taylor Swift, really. Don't have any problem with Taylor Swift. Not a knock on Taylor Swift, but those of us who have been watching the playoffs throughout obviously saw that Taylor Swift was in attendance at the Cleveland games, um, alongside Travis Kelce, floor seats, of course, wearing all Cleveland gear for that. And then last night, you know, she's in all of her Knicks gear with her girls. And I don't know, it was a little distracting for a little bit. Like, I'm not one of these people out here just straight up trying to hate on Taylor Swift, but it was not the person that I felt the camera should have been paying attention to. Like, it's a stadium full of New Yorkers, both prominent and just people from New York who are big time Knicks fans, as well as lifelong prominent, you know, celebrities who are Knicks fans. Spike Lee, you know, Derek Jeter. I don't know if he's at last night's game, but he's been at the games with Eli Manning. And then, of course, Timothy Chalamet, who's been present throughout the entire playoffs and must be, you know, a massive Knicks fan. But Taylor Swift is wearing a shirt, Stevie Nicks, and is just jumping up and down and having presumably a blast with her friends. Okay, fine. Huge celebrity, massive celebrity. The camera can't help but, you know, pay attention to what she's doing. But at the same time, it's like this, let's not kill the vibe. Let's not kill the vibe. Like, these are all New Yorkers. Like, even if you're seeing like Larry David and Jerry Seinfeld, like, I'm like having thoughts of the actual Seinfeld show, and like, you know, this would be something that they would do on the show, like that go to a game or something like that, and could have made like an episode out of that. But in any case, just an incredible comeback and feel good sporting event. I can't think the last time that I felt that good about a sporting event was the any of the playoff games this year in the NCAA football playoffs with I'm a Miami Hurricanes fan, that they won up until, of course, the national championship, which was, you know, very disappointing. But I don't know. I feel like NBA playoffs are back, and I have to give credit where credit's due to Wemby. I mean, he is just such a freak of nature. Watching him, you can't just help but be mesmerized by a guy, such a physical specimen like that, and what he is able to do on the court, like making moves as if he's like, you know, a point guard, 7'4", longest arms. And I think he's actually, like, as much as I love Jalen Brunson and as good as he is and as impactful even as he has been in the playoffs, every time the guy drives, it's almost like, you know, Jalen's a shorter guy. It's like he is aware of Wemby's presence. And I think they all are this way, but the shorter you are, probably the more aware you are, because that guy blocks you just not just as you're coming at him, that you have to be mindful of what he can do, but as you've gone by him, even if you beat him, he's, you know, coming from behind and swatting the ball out of there. And I saw that a couple times, I think, with Towns. And the only real defense for it that I've seen in the playoffs was that guy, what is it, Harkenstein or something like that, from the previous series against OKC, who like just invented a shot. This like shot where he just basically throws it sky high in the air. Like, he has to throw it 15 feet high in the air, maybe more, in anticipation of Wemby. And he was doing it with his left hand. That was a pretty cool shot. I don't follow that guy, so I'm not sure whether that was in his arsenal prior to that, but he was able to execute on that pretty well. So it was pretty impressive if that guy was able to just like come up with a shot in the playoffs as a defense or an offense against Wemby. But they're down, I guess, now 3-1 So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. And I don't know. I'm not like a Sports Center guy. I don't watch Sports Center or things like that in the morning. I'm not a news guy in general. I don't keep up with the news. It's not that it's not interesting. I think if you watch the news, it is in fact quite interesting. It's almost like rooting for a team, like whether that be your political party or rooting against the opponent if it's the opposite political party or whoever's in office, or rooting for your country against another country. Like it's almost like if you're keeping up with it, you're rooting for a team, politically as well. And like there's people out there who are like season ticket holders to the news, right? Like they are like there's diehard sports fans, and then there's diehard politics fans, guys who are just or people who are just like obsessively tuning into the news every day to root for something and to stay engaged like with what the club is doing. I'm not that way because I've noticed that like if you like everybody knows the news can emotionally affect you. Like it can impact your emotions, especially if you have a strong position. Like if you are inflexible in your position, then inevitably, if you watch news, whether it be the news that has the bias of your side, or if you watch the news that has the alternative bias, like if you're inflexible with your views, you're going to be emotionally impacted by the messaging that you're taking in. So everybody kind of knows. I feel like a lot of people understand that, and that is often discussed. I think what is discussed less is like if you watch a news cycle now, and then 3 months from now you tune back in, and you didn't watch anything in between, you didn't have any conversations or dialogues in between now and 3 months from now, it gets highly unlikely anything will have radically changed that's impacting your personal life. And I know that's maybe controversial or people would push back against that, but I don't know. I mean, it's like I think we're all kind of like one of the upsides to watching the news is like if that massive terrible moment happens, maybe call it a 9/11 like that. Like what if you weren't watching the news at all during 9/11 or like that era, and you just had no awareness that had happened? Like that radically and fundamentally changed how we felt about our lives at that time. Similarly, maybe a year or two, either before or after, I can't really remember. I think it was before, but in the DC area, there was the DC sniper. And I remember that was a time where everyone had like a lot of awareness about the threat of the DC sniper because the guy was hitting at like shopping centers and gas stations and things like that, just coming out like with the sniper rifle out of view and just taking people out. And so that was a scary time. I remember I just gotten my driver's license and was like just going to the gas station for the first time, and you would like get out of your car and pay and then be like kind of ducking as you would go to put the nozzle into the car and like ducking, crouching to get back to your car because you were trying not to get shot, basically. But in any case, there's like these huge momentous moments that like maybe it's important to have awareness when those happen, but even so, you wouldn't even necessarily need to watch the news to like if they're that large and at that large scale, like you would inevitably find out about them. You just in communicating and having some type of social life or what have you, just in general dialogue and conversation. But I can't think of anything. I mean, maybe there's been some things, but since then. Maybe like the financial crisis, I don't know. But it's like if you never looked at anything at all, like the financial crisis might be a good example of that, particularly for like people in business, because it becomes like this really common narrative that everyone at that time and other times, recessions and things like that, where people like they start to talk about it quite a bit, and it becomes almost like an excuse for why things aren't going as well as they should be. It ends up being this kind of like depressing undercurrent that people at that period of time carry with them as like a maybe not excuse, but like as an explanation for why things are the way that they are. I always feel like it's something that to like kind of guard against, because like if you have this excuse or justification for why things are the way that they are, then maybe you have that, so maybe you're inclined to not necessarily take personal accountability for your role in how things are for you personally and what your contribution is at that point in time. Like maybe you're not putting in the same effort that you would, or you're not applying yourself in the same way that you would if it was at another time when people weren't talking about like, oh, the recession or whatever. I know these things are real, but it's not a question whether they are real or not. It's a question what type of impact those types of things have on you personally and your view day to day of what you're capable of, and what your responsibility is to do, and what your goals may be. Like they're almost, it's like a, it kind of gives you like a cop out a little bit when there's like a bigger, grander reason for why things are the way they are. So I'm smoking the cigar anyway, here in this lovely screened-in porch. Unfortunately, I'm not able to do the tea box talk today because I'm elsewhere, but hopefully we'll be back there soon, strapped in the Adirondack chair and watching the having the groups go by behind me. But it seems as if the dripping has passed along. And yeah, just the extemporaneous thoughts. That's why I've been doing this, just to kind of see what flows, see what comes to mind, see what comes up as we pay attention to what's happening in the world around us, but paying also attention to that which is happening within us. And actually, I'm trying to not think as much. I'm trying to like use these moments as an opportunity to get some of that mental activity flowing naturally, and then when I leave this moment or these moments, smoking a cigar, having one of these videos, to then get back in my body and to get away from those thought pattern tendencies that often energize us, but also can distract us from what's happening. And I think many of us have a tendency to be in our heads a lot of the time and to not be aware of what's happening within our body most of the time. I think some of us are more sensitive than others and we're more in tune with our bodies. But a lot of times, those of us who are more in tune with what's happening within us are more inclined to do things to distract ourselves, or to maybe numb those feelings, whether by way of alcohol or other forms of distraction. When I was looking at some different, a lot of times if I'm doing something, I get a free moment, maybe I'll just like randomly go to Redfin not looking for a new house, not in the market for a house, but just like swiping through the recent listings at different places just to like kind of see what's going on. And it occurred to me the other day, like when you do that on your phone, it's almost like you feel like you've accomplished something. It's like, okay, I've got some more knowledge of the local real estate market that I don't have any intention of being a part of, but it's like maybe if that comes up in conversation, I'm now like kind of into like I don't even know what the point of that is. But 20 years ago, the equivalent of that, just randomly scrolling a real estate app or randomly looking at like some, let's call it ESPN or some website like that. Like the equivalent of that 20 years ago would be like looking at a magazine. And you wouldn't get caught like sitting at your desk at work, just like flipping through the pages of a magazine. Or like, think about if you looked at magazines. And I remember like people would look at like People magazine and things like that, and like would spend a decent amount of time looking at a magazine, but it was anywhere near the amount of time we look at a phone. But imagine if you had done that at that time, not with a phone, but with a magazine. Just like I think my phone usage is like 5 hours a day, but imagine, and I think it's been as much as 8 at other times. Imagine if 5 to 8 hours a day you were just looking at a magazine. Like if you just had your head down, flipping through the pages of a magazine. Like people would think you're nuts if you were doing that. Or do it now, maybe, and see how people will respond to that. Yet it has been so normalized that with our phone that we're basically doing the same thing. Then if you think about it, magazines were just like apps. Like there was sports magazines, there was like GQ, Men's Health, everything that is now digital and either an app or a site that many of us spend our time visiting was at one time just a magazine. But think about that. If you just literally were flipping through the pages of a magazine for like 8 hours a day, like people would think you had an absolute problem. Like not you were just doing it while you were sitting on a train or like in your bed at night or like in a bathroom or something like that, but literally like half of your waking hours was face down in a magazine. That's kind of what many of our relationships are now like with our phones. And yet, imagine if 20 years ago you just put a video camera and faced yourself and just did videos talking into the camera about nonsense for 20 minutes straight. That too would be really weird. And maybe it is really weird to do that today also. And yet we do that. Why? I don't know. At least I guess it feels like it's a little bit of a proactive activity. So, if any of this is worthwhile or meaningful or thought-provoking, then great. And if it is not, you can always pull up a magazine.